How to make your sermon series memorable, the flourishing factor, coming up here on the Better Sundays podcast at reachkeep.com. Welcome to the Better Sundays podcast, focused, practical, and usable advice for church leaders looking to reach new young families and impact their community. Well, howdy. Mike Holmes here, not in studio, but on the road. And I want to spend a few moments with you in our final portion of our little series on how to do a sermon series. Today we're going to talk about how to make that sermon series stick, how to make it memorable, how it's going to affect your people's lives and cause them to grow. And I'm very excited about this entire series, the things we've covered from, the promotion. We had some good feedback on the how to promote your sermon series, the idea of building your titles and your subtitles, how to do all of that. The third one we did had to do with the graphics and music and putting all those things together. And so it's been a great little run here. Make sure that you watch all 5 of these. The first one, of course, is why or how really should you do a sermon series. We kind of get into the how and details, but why you should do it and why they work so well. So anyway, I am on the road. I apologize for my sound quality, probably not up to speed here, but I've got to get the message out to you, and I'm very excited about it. So, hey, let's continue on with our sermon series here. We talked about how to promote it, but this is probably what I call sort of the flourishing factors, how to get people to really flourish and grow from your sermons. There's always response to a sermon series. Each individual sermon, whether it's people that, raise a hand or come forward, make a decision or, make some personal type of commitment. Many of the series that we do have, physical things tied to them. If you're, wanting to go help people or visit people or do this or do that, we'll have a sign-up sheet after the sermon, and you can do what we just talked about. If we talk about servant evangelism, then there's many of ways to create service opportunities in your local church, and just right after church, your service is over, just sign people up and help, and that really helps kind of get people going in the growth aspect because they've done it. So, but I think probably one of the most important things, and I've emphasized this over and over, to make it memorable is to just to really focus on making it just really special in the first place, so that it is a well prepared and built up and a very exciting, comprehensive, all tied together kind of a thought process, and not just something that popped into your mind at the last moment, or something that you studied at the last moment, but you have got promotion out on this, you got literature out on this, it's well done. I think of the idea of a Thanksgiving dinner, and I can recall many of them at my parents' house, some of the wonderful moments that we had there, and all the preparation went into the turkey, and my mom would do ham sometimes, and we had stuffing and this green bean stuff that she made, and I always liked the sweet potato stuff with the crunchy things on the top of it. And just remember sitting around, and the table was decorated so well, and everybody kind of came in from out of town, and it was a well anticipated event, and the anticipation ahead of time is what created the memories afterwards. And this is probably one of the most important things, just to remember that you have to preach with passion, and you have to really put a lot of preparation into these things. My mom probably microwaved a burrito for me once or twice in my life, or took me to McDonald's to get a little cheeseburger, but I don't have a lot of memories of that, and they wouldn't be fond memories in the first place, because it was just something that's kind of quick and put together, and it sort of drive through. And this is the idea again, that as you do a sermon series and you work on a sermon series and you get all this ready ahead of time, your people know that you have a passion for it, and they are going to not only attend and bring visitors and get into it, but they are going to remember it, and it is going to stick in their hearts longer because it has been a well prepared and well thought out thing. So no microwave sermons anymore. We're done with those. We need to have some good hearty meat and potatoes type of stuff that takes some good preparation. Now, there are other services in the week, and we're primarily talking about Sunday morning services for this. There are other times in the week when you can have, smaller sermons or not necessarily tied to series, but you can have Bible studies, a lot of different type of things that can be not have the preparation. But for your Sunday morning, we want to reach our community. We want to change our world. We want to impact our people. We want to kind of launch them. It's sort of a launch type of mentality. You want to be really well prepared and not just be thinking things up at the last Saturday night prep type thing. So let me give you a couple other things that help it to really last long. One of the things that we do in every one of our sermons, and you can go back and read this or catch this in our YouTube channel on this particular channel that we have a bunch of things on how to do sermon notes, how to do fill in the blank sermon notes. We find that fill in the blank sermon notes keep it in memory here better. All right, a short pencil better than a long memory. It sticks in their head. And we also have on every one of our notes that we write questions about the sermon that they can take home. We call them take-home questions or growth group questions, and they can take those questions and they can read through those questions, and it really will help them to develop and to mature. We use these questions, and not only to encourage people, to kind of go through them on their own and look up this verse and how does that, go with the verse that was in point 3, and that kind of thing. What are several ways we can apply, point number 2 in your life? What are some ways that this would, what would this look like in your life? Those kind of questions where people kind of really put the application to it. Not only do we do this just so they can take home and do it, but we do this in our midweek, and we have several midweek Bible studies where we go over the sermon notes and discuss these questions that are there. And it really, really is a great way to get people involved in Bible study real easily, because they've heard the sermon and now they come and they answer some of the questions and talk about the application of the particular verses and this verse and that verse. So we write those questions out, and I've given several samples of those in the past. When you look at go back to our YouTube video on sermon notes, how to do fill in the blank sermon notes, you'll be able to find some examples of some of that. So creating Bible studies after or about your sermon are really an effective way to do this. These can be done midweek. They can be done, I've actually done Bible studies right after the Sunday morning service. It's like if you're interested in learning more about this topic, we're going to play a few songs and people are going to kind of be dismissed, but after about 10 minutes, I'm going to be over in this corner here and I got a couple tables set up and we are going to have a Bible study on that particular verse, and I want to go through and give you a little bit more. And you'd be surprised how many people stick around for things like that because they want to grow and they want to learn, and a lot of them have kids and they got to get home and all that, but you do start to catch some fish. And if we're going to disciple people, we want to be as effective as possible. This is what causes them to flourish, is when we are really integrating ourselves and integrating everything together and making them grow. So a couple of other things that we have used to help the Bible studies or the sermon series kind of last longer is we would have like the main theme of the series, might be on, patience or, growing through trials or whatever. We try to come up with a couple real simple statements that are very memorable, and we try to put those in front of the people in several ways. So for example, I wrote one down here that we did, trials perfect patience. And that was part of a sermon, and at the end it was like, let's all say this together: trials perfect patience. And we talked about how we grow and how our patience and our maturity comes through trials, and we mature through those things. So you can take those 3 words, trials perfect patience, and you can put them in a little banner type box and put that in your bulletin. And so always remember, trials perfect patience. Your bulletin just doesn't have to be announcements. It can be declarations as well about your core values. So you put a little thing, trials perfect patience, and you can put that on the screen if you have a screen there, and remember this, and you can put the verse up there, James chapter 1 verse 2, and blah blah blah, and then remember, here it is, trials perfect patience. And you post that throughout the year, and people will remember your sermon from way back and the things that they grew on. So when people coming into our service, we have our screen going with many pictures of our youth programs and kids events and all that, but we also have many what we call declarations or our core values on the thing. So it'd be like Sinclair Baptist believes in community engagement. I mean, that's all it would say. And have a picture of us doing something in the community, maybe at the county fair or handing out some tracts or doing some street things. But we would have that. Sinclair believes this: trials perfect patience. And you get to minister to people before the sermon even starts. They get to see that as they're sitting there waiting for the service to come. We did one a while back where it was all about Joseph and the temptations and all that, and we had a little statement that we came up with when we were preparing the sermon series, and the statement became the summary of the entire thing. We did a kids program on it. We did all sorts of stuff, and it was the statement was basically this: don't give in, run from sin. And so we, with our children, we kind of came up with a thing where the parents would say, don't give in, and the kids would say, run from sin. And they would do kind of like the fist bump. Don't give in, boom, run from sin. And we kind of created that. Then everybody started doing that. So they remember that. This was years ago, and they still remember that statement, don't give in, run from sin, and the fist bump. Then we also created a nice little plaque that said, don't give in, run from sin, printed up on our colored printer, and we went down to the thrift store and bought a whole bunch of cheap little frames like that and put them in frames, and we gave them to every person in the service that was there. And I go to people's houses today, and they still have hanging on their wall, don't give in, run from sin. This is a great way to keep these sermons kind of sticky. If you're going to get people to flourish, your sermons are going to have long-lasting effect, and you want to do everything you can. And again, the idea of just being passionately preparing it from the beginning is really what kind of gets it going. The idea of creating questions and answers and discussion groups all based around it, where you can have that, and then using some of these little devices, like say the little plaques and little declaration statements in your bulletin. We do that all the time. It's just an excellent way to remind people of some of the things that we have taught. We want to continue to remind them. So I wanted to share that with you. If you did not get the sermon series planner that goes along with this, it is available. It is like 21 or 31 steps of how to plan and all the different ideas. Just kind of a cheat sheet to help you remember how to plan a sermon in areas that you may not have thought about, promotion things, whiteboards and bulletin boards and sermon, declarations, all that. All of those things are available, or that entire sheet is available at reachkeep.com/planner. And also, this sermon series, little series that we have done, is part of a bigger thing that we're doing, the pastor, the preacher, and the pulpit. And it's sort of our podcast series we're doing, but it really is going to culminate with the 9 fundamentals of pastoral preaching, which is a major product that we are coming out. And it is a coaching network type thing where you and I can sit down and talk about how you can be a better preacher as a pastor. Not just a better preacher, but how pastors can preach better, because there are many things that have to do with just preaching in and of itself that don't have anything to do with pastoring. But most of you that have been on our podcast and watched this are tied to pastoral ministry, and you preach different when you're a pastor. Excuse me. We have to figure out how we are going to be the most effective that we possibly can be, and I am here to help you with some of that. Got many years of speaking, both as a preacher and as a pastor, and I can tell you there's a lot of difference between those. So we have the 9 fundamentals pastoral preaching, and we'll be going through and making that available. If you're interested in that, we have a kind of a wait list that you can sign up on, and it is just real simple to get to. It's reachkeep.com/preaching, and just go to reachkeep.com/preaching, and we'll get you on the list. And when things are available, we'll be able to open it up and let you know if we'll have room in our coaching network for that. So anyway, thank you so much for being with us here, and I'm glad I was able to spend a little time technologically on the road. It's amazing how technology works in this day, but we're grateful for every bit of it. So thanks for being with us here at the Better Sundays podcast at reachkeep.com.